Oh, fuck. Okay, so TOG season is upon us, and although I've been mainly focused in freshwater these past couple of years, I'll always make a trip or two for Blackfish. In any case, if you're interested in actual techniques and methods from the kayak to jig for TOG, I have over probably a dozen videos on those topics, and I'll leave a link to that playlist down below, and also a card will appear on your upper right hand side on the screen. In any case, I'm doing pretty basic stuff. I'm targeting shallow rock piles, drop offs, any sort of hard structure that has some contours to it. And I'm using, I believe, a 3/8 ounce jig head made by TOG Candy Jigs. I'll leave a link to his store down below. In my opinion, he makes some of the best Blackfish jigs on the market. Now, this rather involved catch and cook starts with me harvesting this Blackfish. I have a sort of a personal slot limit between 16 and 18 and a half, 19 inches. This one is just a little bit under 19, which is perfect. I try not to keep larger fish. They're very slow growing. Blackfish are under tremendous pressure, both from potting in the Long Island Sound and just recreational fishing pressure. If you think about the growth in blackfishing these past few years, past decade or so, it's been tremendous. So take care of this resource. I never take home a limit. I'll take one or two, maybe three fish a season, and that's it. In any case, the dish we're about to make is a Kung Pao version of TOG, usually done with chicken, but Kung Pao really just refers to a combination of Sichuan dried chilies and Sichuan peppercorns, and also, oddly enough, peanuts, which I'm omitting from this dish. So these fillets were rinsed in salt water, then wrapped in paper towels, then tin foil. That's a standard treatment for all saltwater fillets. And as you can see, I slice them into rather large pieces. And here we're going to marinate and also velvet the fish. And that was rice wine, dark soy, pinch of salt, and here is egg white, and then cornstarch. And what this does is it sort of gives the surface of whatever protein you're velveting a very smooth texture, and that translates to actually being more tender on your palate. So this technique works for chicken, for pork, for any kind of protein. And here we're making the sauce, and that first ingredient was a Chinese dark vinegar, and then equal parts apple cider vinegar. 3 teaspoons or so of light brown sugar, or just regular table sugar. You basically want there to be enough sugar here to completely saturate this liquid. Then you add about equal amount of dark soy and a few glugs of oyster sauce. Stir everything together, make sure the sugar is dissolved completely, and that's your wet ingredient. Now here's the dry Sichuan chilies and peppercorns, and that's your dry ingredient. And then next up, we're just gonna do the aromats, a few slices of ginger, roughly chopped scallion whites, and finely minced shallots and sort of roughly minced garlic. Shallots go great in Chinese cooking, although it's not really a traditional part of the Chinese mirepoix. And the garlic, like I said, roughly minced. The green of the scallion, I'm just slicing thin for garnish. So here's another non-traditional ingredient that I use a lot in my Chinese cooking, which is tomato paste. We need a little bit of that. and the dry chilies, Sichuan peppercorns, the sauce that's pre-mixed, and the Chinese mirepoix with the shallots, the fish that's marinating and velveting. And one last component that's not shown here is just a cornstarch slurry, which is equal parts water and cornstarch, and you mix it up. And that's used to thicken the sauce at the end. So Chinese cooking is very prep heavy. If you don't have good knife skills, it's going to take you quite some time, but the actual cooking time is rather short. In any case, here we're dredging the tog pieces in cornstarch, and we're going to pan fry it. So the purpose of this is not really to give it a crispy exterior. It's really just to form a starchy base that the sauce will actually stick to. And you'll see what I mean once this dish comes together in the final stir fry. Okay, so here we have some grapeseed oil, and not too hot. I would say 350, 370 maybe. You saw me sprinkle some cornstarch in the pot first, and once those start bubbling, then the oil is pretty much ready. You can do this in a deep fryer if you have it. Now notice when I lay these pieces down, I'm doing it in a clockwise fashion, so then I know which one to flip first. And then you basically want to cook it on one side for 60-70% of the way, flip it once, and then you can tilt the pan to sort of submerge all the pieces. Very important that you don't overcrowd the pan. So I'm going to be doing these in batches, and that pretty much goes for any time you're pan frying or searing meats, a head of stews, braising short ribs. You don't want to crowd the pan. If you do that, you're going to lower the temperature too much and it's not going to fry. So we're going to remove these pieces to drain and just to hang out, pour off most of the excess oil, and then we are going to start our actual stir fry. And then I'm not going to edit this next part too heavily, so you get a sense of the timing. All right, so now we have some fresh grapeseed oil. First thing that goes in is your ginger. After your ginger becomes slightly aromatic, you're going to see it giving up some of its juices in the pan. Then you add your dry ingredients, which is your dry chilies and your Sichuan peppercorns. Now, if you're not used to these ingredients, they can be rather harsh on your lungs. So make sure your vent is on high. And here you're going to see me move them on and off the heat. I don't adjust the heat, especially on an electric stove. That's not really quick enough. So you don't want to scorch the peppercorns. Then it's going to become very bitter. So you want to basically toast them through and make them very fragrant. You're going to see the dry chili start to plump up. And then that's when you can move on to the next step. So first thing that goes in next is your minced shallots and garlic. If your pan gets a little dry, you definitely want to hit it with a little bit more oil. Pinch of salt, always when you're sauteing vegetables or your aromats. That's going to shorten the process. It's going to leach the water out and then let it evaporate. So that's me just adding a little bit more oil. Now your scallion whites go in. The next thing you add after the scallion whites, so that's all your aromats, that's all your aromatic vegetables. You cook that for 2 or 3 minutes. Again, this is medium-high heat. You don't need it to be blazing hot. Now here's the tomato paste, and the important thing about sauteing the tomato paste is you actually have to saute it. You have to cook it out, as we used to say in the kitchen, and that just means you need to work it into the oil, and that process takes 2 to 3 minutes, after which we're going to deglaze with a little bit of rice wine. This could be sake, it could be even soju, I suppose. But this is Chinese cooking rice wine, and you want to cook the alcohol off, which would take another minute. So the timing and sequence of everything here is about layering and building that foundation. And that's really what stir frying technique is all about. Okay, and at this point, you see the tomato paste is cooked out. The alcohol we used to deglaze the pan has evaporated, and we're going to add our sauce. Now, because of the oyster sauce in this premix, you're not going to need a lot of cornstarch slurry to thicken it. As you can see, it has quite a bit of body as it is. So we're going to reduce that by not a lot, just like 20%. Just let it come to a boil, and then that's the cornstarch slurry, just to tighten it up. And you don't want a loose sauce, but you don't want clumpy, gluey sauce either. And then the fish goes in, and at this point you want to be gentle. Now, tog can really stand up to this kind of cooking because it's a very firm fish, but still, it's not chicken, it's not beef. When you're tossing to incorporate, you want to be particularly gentle. You can just use a spatula and turn it, that's fine too. So the cornstarch that we dredge the fish in, as you can see, the sauce is really clinging to it. And that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for giant pools of sauce at the bottom of your dish. It's really a marrying of the sauce sticking to the surface of the fillets. And it's very intense. The flavor is very vibrant, and that's the result that you're looking for. So as usual, we transfer it to a metal dish. That's just so that we don't scratch up the pot while we're plating. And that's pretty much the dish right there. We're just gonna garnish and plate and serve it with white rice. See, I wasn't careful. I broke one piece. Now, a short comment about plating. Almost doesn't matter what kind of food you're doing. Just hit the center of the plate, give it a little bit of height. Don't spread it out flat, and then it's gonna look pretty appetizing. So that's it. I'm gonna sprinkle some of the shaved scallion greens on top, and that's the dish. Now, my cousin Mark, Shore Money, who's been pumping out fluke videos all year for you guys, he's the one filming it, and as usual, he will be the one tasting this dish.
Look at that. Let me pinch it. Oh man, it's so good. It's so good.
My scalp is tingling right now.
Oh my god.
I just had that one little bite. So one thing about Sichuan cuisine is, yes, it's very hot and spicy, but it's very flavorful. That heat is layered in. It's about good technique, good timing, and stir frying like this dish is the most basic form of that. And there's a lot more involved recipes you can find in that whole genre of cooking. Man, you're sweating. That's that Sichuan peppercorn right there.
Yeah, it's a workout. It's a workout.
Okay, so here's just a little bonus dish. I butchered out the collar, salted it down so it's sort of half salt cured, and I'm gonna grill this over some benchiton charcoal. And it's just a little snack. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's been a while since we did one of these catch and cooks. Obviously, it's been a strange year for everyone. So we're going to put out more videos throughout the off season. Talk about fluke and gear and all kinds of stuff. So in any case, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.